I'm now going to review and assemble the Sci-Fi Gothic Ruin sector from TT Combat. This is laser cut MDF. This will cost you from their website £20, but it gives you 2 ruined buildings, 2 containers, 3 barriers and 5 different types of barrier, so 8 barriers in total. So it looks like there's no instructions included, so let's have a quick look at the MDF sections. So that's a container, that's another container, so 2 containers, ruined building, and ruined building, and then different ruined building there. So what we're lacking here is instructions. So before I assemble it, I'm going to need to start sorting out the instructions from the TT Combat website. So I'll be back in a minute, but I may as well also show you how the MDF comes out. So I think in this case we're going to need a sharp knife, just to get the corners of this one. Because what you want to do is push it so that it starts to come out. And the more pieces that have come out of a sprue, well, not a sprue, it's a board, the more pieces that have come out, the easier you'll find it to get the rest out, because you can then always snap the whole board section off. Like so. So you see how soon you start being able to get the lot out. There we go, that's most of the large pieces for a container, so you can start working out immediately how it goes together. And you can see where, yeah, that fits. So I'm going to come back having downloaded the instructions and having separated these into the relevant kits. I'll be back in a moment. So I'm starting with the containers. I've separated them from the main board. I've cleaned them up using this X-Acto knife, which I was very careful with because it's very sharp. I've put together one end and now I'm going to put together the other. I'm just using simple PVA glue like so. At each end there are 8 of these pieces. You can assemble the container open if you wish. I've not done that because that seems like an awful fuss for scenery, because then I'll have to paint the inside and that could get very, very complicated. But you can see once you've cleaned it up how quickly you can start moving with it. With some of these it was necessary to run a knife along the perforations before separating them from the board. It's particularly true with these tiny handles because these bits are easy to break, the bits at the very end, and I'd certainly recommend doing that with anything with very thin pieces, or as with these where there are pieces that can get caught. So with those I ran a knife along the perforations to make sure it was easy to pop out. I put all 8 of these in. I now do this to make sure they're all pressed in correctly. each of these. Bit on this side, bit on this side, bit on this side, bit on this side. And then slide it in. These bits that have been pushed out, I'm just using the brush to smooth them out, because while they will dry transparent, I'm going to be spray undercoating this. So I don't want little lumps to appear on the doors, which are going to be the most noticeable bits. So, tiny bit of brushwork smooths those out. That's both the end pieces done. I'm now start putting this together. So that is going to slide in like that. So what I then need to do is go along this edge with glue. All of this bit, then along this edge, then all of this bit. Because those are the peak points where there will be contact. So with that initial bit done, the next thing I'm going to do is along here, because putting the ends on is going to be where you start to get some structure and being able to hold things in place. So this goes here. Then I'll leave this in place for a minute. The next piece is going to be this top piece. So we paint the glue along here, and then this piece gets slid into here, and we pull this whole end together like so. That lets us then paint along the inside with the glue to get a stronger join, like so. And then of course we want to paint this end. And then we can paint the inside of this. Using the glue. Along with the insides of these edges. Get the glue along there. So it does all fit together. The issue is getting a good solid join. So we're using PVA wood glue, which should set quite hard and give us the join that we want. And again we go along, we add some glue this time to fill in these little gaps and make sure there is a good join. Once it's dry, we'll seal it using watered down PVA before we apply the undercoat, because if we don't seal it, the wood may warp when we spray it. Particularly along any edges. So that's that done. This is the one that I finished earlier and the glue has dried. It gives a solid container. So there are the two containers from the set, done and ready to be sealed. So I will come back in a minute with the barriers. With the containers built, I'm going to start doing the fences and the walls. So there are 3 walls and 5 fences in this set. The fences are fairly simple to put together. I've already separated them from the board, cleaned off the various bits, and you just go like so. Again, PVA. And then use the brush to smooth away any little bubbles of PVA that you can see, because what you want is a smooth join. For the edges, I'm brushing some additional PVA onto the join here to get it to be a little smoother and more solid. Bang, that's that complete. The walls are a little bit more complex because there's pieces that you need to stick together. So there's also battle damage on the walls. So I've punched them out. It's already burnt through with MDF. You just need to pop it out with a knife. But yeah, what I do is get the PVA, paint it on both sides of the wall, and put that together. But what will lock it in place is starting to put these pieces in. There's 3 pieces that are 2 of these stuck together, and 2 single pieces. So once you have that together, you get that. Like so. You will get a bit of glue popping out, but that is to be expected. And then suddenly it's all locked in together. So there's actually quite a lot of pieces of terrain that aren't the buildings in this set. With some of them, like these walls, and I'll show you the size of them when they're done, blocking line of sight, particularly to the smaller models. That's the main three pieces in, and cleaned off for the PVA. Again, the end walls. There. So, if I pull out a little bit, you get 3 of these walls, 5 of these barriers, and 2 of these containers. So the next thing I'll be doing is putting some ruins together. Back in a minute. I'm now going to assemble some of the ruins. This is going to be a simple 2-level ruin. So you get 2 large pieces like this, and a couple of pieces that are more medium size, more like this. So a quick test fit shows that it will go together like that. This, however, will go in the middle. I would actually always advise you to put the middle piece in first. So, and again, I'm going to use some PVA glue. And pop this guy in here. That fits completely snugly. Extra PVA here and here. If you have time, I'd actually leave these pieces to completely dry before you put the next piece in. So that's going to go like that. So I need to do all of these edges like so. So you'll be able to tell what is an edge with contact. And go from there. So I'm now going to join these together. Then I'm going to check this edge for glue sticking out. But I'm also going to apply glue to make sure everything is stuck in quite tight. And again, I'd actually leave this, if you have the time, before you glue the next piece in, which is going to be the base. However, as I don't, let's identify where the points of contact are going to be, like so. So painting onto these tabs here, and then onto these tabs here, which are going to be contacting the side. Push it all together nice and snug. Then get some more PVA and paint it along the contact edge, making sure that it still stays nice and tightly together. So doing so is to make sure that when it dries it's absolutely solid. You get a number of pieces of wreckage like this, so I'm going to apply glue to the bottom of one and pop it there. That gives a little more three-dimensional, makes the building a little more three-dimensional and gives a point of visual interest. You can of course go over and add more details as you're finishing it off, so what I may well do is I may well add a bit of gravel, because this is a ruin, so it's gonna be taking some damage from various places, so a little bit of gravel here and there would absolutely be expected. So a great big blob PVA. And a bit more PVA. Bit of PVA here. And a bit more PVA to make sure that's stuck down. Some PVA there. Next to a piece of wreckage. And some PVA in the very corner. Get some fine pieces of gravel and push them into place. So in the morning I will give it a shake so that any loose pieces come out, and I will probably look at adding a little sand, but it's a very simple thing to do to add some additional detail to the model, as you can see. So I'll come back with everything dry and show you exactly how much you get from this set. I've now assembled the whole ruin sector, so what do I think? For 20 quid it's absolutely worth it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to paint the whole thing with thin down PVA glue to seal it before I undercoat it, paying particular attention to the joins and other surfaces. So it takes a bit longer to put together than plastic terrain, but in terms of price, there's not a lot of plastic terrain kits you can get for 20 quid. Certainly not that produce this amount of terrain. So I'm quite happy with it. If you look at it, it gives you enough to provide a reasonable amount of terrain on a 4x4 board. I mean, I'll of course be using several more terrain kits for my 4x4 board, but this is a good start. If you are just starting to put together your terrain collection, this gets you quite far, quite fast, quite cheap. There's certainly an awful lot of other TT Combat buildings and such like that you can get, and I'd recommend you think about what you want to mix things with. So I've got some completed plastic 40k terrain that I'll be mixing in as well, and I've got some Mantic terrain that I'll be mixing in as well, to give me a variety of different types of terrain on my 4x4 board. But if you're just getting started with, say, Necromunda, and you've got the plastic stuff from the boxed set there, I would certainly not hesitate to go with getting one of these as a way to start building up your terrain collection quickly. Certainly things like the containers are very nice. All the barriers are very nice. They all provide a decent amount of cover. And give me a second and I will find a 40k model too. Your standard 40k Marine. Line of sight is blocked by the wall, line of sight is blocked by the container. You can see out of the windows on the terrain. Your 40k Terminator is still blocked by the wall, blocked by the container. Easily fits into the ruined terrain. Your larger models, so this model from Dead Zone, you can certainly see him over the wall and container. Does still fit in the ruins, though you can't get him under the roof bits. But yeah, it's a nice little terrain set, and I would highly recommend it to anybody who is starting to build up their terrain collection. It needs a bit more work than plastic, so I expect I'll be a good half an hour or so putting PVA glue on every single one of these surfaces so that it doesn't warp when I spray it. But on the other hand, an equivalent set from GW, I'd be looking at 70 quid, quite possibly. So spending a bit of time going over things with PVA glue does not bother me awfully much, particularly considering that in a minute I'll go and find the biggest brush I can to make it go much quicker. So if you've liked this review, hit like or subscribe. If you feel strongly about it, leave a comment below. But this is the first of my Necromunda terrain videos. I'll be coming back having painted this and looking at the Mantic terrain, and then I'll be looking at some Games Workshop terrain. Otherwise, good gaming.